Chris used to come in with pages.
No.
We're live streaming right now.
Oh, we are, thank you.
Streaming right now.
Are you going to try to talk through your mask, or can we take it off when we're speaking?
Well, when we did the budget meeting last time,
Did you
we
grab the resources?
we took them off.
I
so
did.
Smart woman.
I'm fine taking
I
them
tried to
off.
take it
I don't
everywhere.
think you
Yeah.
took it off.
You don't mind?
Yeah,
Because there's so much to say, and I'm going to be yelling through my mask, I think. Well, I can try. Could you hear me before in the hearing? All right. Just want to make sure the public can hear. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Village of Tequesta and to a regular council meeting. It is Thursday, September 10th, 2020, and it is 6 p.m. The Village Council is meeting here today in chambers with limited seating due to required social distancing. Residents will also be able to watch this meeting via the Village's YouTube channel. If you wish to submit a comment to the Village Council, then you can do that through our citizen comment form, and it will be read at the meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone?
Here.
Councilmember Brandon?
Here.
Councilmember DeAmber?
Here.
Councilmember Prince?
Here.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve? Oh, no, let's go to Reverend Dan Comerford from First Presbyterian Church is going to say our prayer this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Brennan. Vice Mayor Kyle Stone, let me know that this is the first time that we've been meeting in person here in quite some time. And as you said, I'm the pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tequesta, just down the road. And we too are getting ready to start gathering in person for the very first time. We never closed. Our church never closed amidst this pandemic. Rather, we found new, creative, innovative ways to gather and be a community. But we are excited to get back into our sanctuary soon. So I'd like to invite all of you, if you're looking for a place to worship, to join us on Sunday mornings. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen of the council, as well as everyone in attendance and watching from afar, it's an honor for me to invoke the name of the Almighty God, who created the heavens and the earth and all that dwell in it. We live in extraordinary times. We live amidst a pandemic that has shook the very fabric of our society. We live amidst a culture of partisanship that seeks to divide our families, our communities, and even our nation. We live amidst life's mountaintops and valleys that all of us navigate every day. Life is as extraordinary as it's ever been, and it's as extraordinary as it's always been. In the midst of all of these challenges and opportunities, we proclaim that God has never left us, and that God continues to walk with us, to speak with us, and guide us every step of the way. As you meet tonight to serve the people of the Village of Tequesta, may you be filled with God's wisdom that provides clarity, God's compassion that provides understanding, and God's guidance to provide the courage necessary to do what is just. And I'd like to conclude this with the blessing that is found in my tradition's Old Testament, the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Vice Mayor Stone. Would you please rise?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
I had one item, you were talking about the consent agenda?
No, that was the
Okay, I'm
entire
sorry.
agenda. All right, I'm going to the consent agenda now. Do I have a motion, or you want to pull?
A motion and just to pull number 5.
All right, we will pull number 5. All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda less item number 5?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
I just had a quick question on number 5. And I don't see the chief, but Jeremy, you may be able to answer this. When you look at number 5, first of all, I'm thrilled we got the grant, the $50,000. If you look at the application, on pages 26 and 27, we talk about the expenditures we've incurred being $50,000. But then in Exhibit A, when we talk about the budget summary, we talk about, there are two categories of expenses that total up to about $38,000. Just wondering what the differential was. Why was there a difference between what was in Exhibit A and what occurred earlier in the application? Maybe it was just expenses we hadn't realized yet, but I just want to get a little clarity on that. That was all. It was 26, 27, and then the Exhibit A was 32.
I'm not familiar with it.
If it's something we need to research and you want to get back to us on it, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure we understood why there was a differential between those things, that's all.
All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve number 5 on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's the end of consent, and we are now going to take communications from citizens, and I think Dr. Joy is going to come up and talk to us. Dr. Joy Sutton.
Thank you for listening to me. As many of you know, parking on Cypress Drive is really sparse. I think several businesses on the north end suffer from lack of parking. When I started with my hospital 7 years ago, I only had me, a receptionist, and a nurse. I now have hired my 4th doctor. There are 12 of us, and I have 7 parking spaces. You probably also may remember that veterinary clinics are only allowed in the very tiny Zone C3, which we changed 7 years ago because it was illegal before that. So I have no place else to go in the village of Tequesta if I want to practice. I love practicing in Tequesta. I live here, my friends are here, my clients are here. I love practicing here. There is a small 2,500 or so square foot bit of land owned by the village of Tequesta that the council is contemplating leasing some land that's between the railroad tracks and the properties on the other side of Cypress Drive to the businesses that own that. I would love for me and if the automotive shop next door wants to actually proceed with it, because they are interested as well, to lease and improve the small plot of land. It's 240 feet from my property and almost adjacent to the mechanics, next to Vanderwall and an empty lot and Tequesta Drive. And we would pave it, make it very aesthetically pleasing, do whatever it is that you want so that we could have our employees park there, leaving our own parking available for our clients. Thomas regrets that he could not come. He's the manager for the automotive shop. We will do whatever it takes to make this happen. I don't want to leave Tequesta. I love practicing here. My hospital is big enough, just big enough that we could accommodate all of my employees, but the parking is not, and it's a constant problem. So for my practice to survive, I need more parking. Again, that is the only zone in the village of Tequesta where veterinarians are allowed to practice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeremy, I know that you've been working with Dr. Joy a bit, and you're going to bring it to us at some point to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to try to put it on the next workshop, if we can, to discuss the properties adjacent to the railroad that she referred to, as well as a strip of land that is adjacent to her side. So we can workshop that.
Okay, all right, thank you for that.
Can I just say a comment in relation to that?
Of course.
Dr. Sutton has an amazing practice. And it is really hard to find a good vet that's honest. And we have two that are in the Tequesta, so I'd really love to see if we can keep both of them and find some sort of solution. And that is a tight area, but I'd really like to find a solution for them. We can't lose good vets.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I was just there today.
Do we have any other cards from?
Yes, we have Robert Passander.
Is he here?
Is he out in the lobby by any chance?
Mr. Passander? Yes, you're up.
Oh.
As you know, Rob Passander, I'm at 374 West Riverside Drive. I guess I'm supposed to do that for the record. I'm going to try through this real quickly. This is a visual from a job that was done by a village contractor in my yard. Drainage job. This is a 4-inch piece of pipe going into a 3-inch fitting. It's wrapped up with all this tape. Why does that matter? Because all of the pipe runs uphill and water runs back to my home and collects at the foundation. I guess having said that, this job was administered by the town manager. There was not a permit pulled to do it, nor did he have any subsequently. The contractor have any supervision from the building, building official. I'd like to know why, and that's it. I had some other comments about it, but I have some other, if any of you are interested, I doubt it, some other visuals and lots of videos showing this in action, how ineffectively this works. This is what should have been used. There's a representation of the pipe. This is the pop-up. All of this has continuity. It's 4-inch into 4-inch. Pretty disappointed that I couldn't have a building inspection. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Passander.
By the way, the 4-inch pipe was married to the 3-inch elbow with that big black blob of tape there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Any other citizen comment? Do you have? No? All right, let's move on to communications from our council. Who would like to start? All right, Councilmember Gamber.
Well, I'm not sure if I should bring this up now or do it in any other matters. I guess you can bring it up now. We can decide how you want to proceed. I was going to suggest a couple of resolutions. One is, obviously, the county's moved to phase 2. We have much more in common with Martin County than we do with the rest of Palm Beach County, particularly from West Palm Beach south to Boca. Phase 2 continues to limit our restaurants to 50% occupancy. In the document that was sent out just this past week, where they had the incremental reopening that I just went through, nowhere in here does it talk about when the restaurants can move to 75 or full occupancy. Again, I think the number of incidences we've had in Tequesta here are quite low. I'm concerned about the impact it's already had on our restaurants. I'm concerned about their need to get ready for the incoming season. I would like to suggest that the council adopt a resolution to go to Palm Beach County, asking them to allow us to move our restaurants to 75% internal occupancy immediately and go to 100% occupancy on November 2nd at the start of the season. November 2nd is currently their anticipated date for Phase 3. Well, like I said, in this document, and I know the manager and the attorney are going to do a little more research, but in this document, they do not specify when restaurants will move forward, even though other entertainment and other businesses are identified. So that would be the first thing, a resolution to go to the county asking them if we can move forward a little more quickly within our own community. The second thing, and I don't know how many of you saw this article, but the school board, basically, the school system is basically not prepared to open properly, even though they were given an extra week. There's a lot of confusion with teachers, there's a lot of confusion with parents. It's very, very disappointing considering the fact that Martin County schools are open and they're functioning fine. The private schools in Palm Beach County are open and they're doing well. The kids are back in school physically. And the fact is that the Palm Beach County school system has had months to prepare for this, and they've done an extremely poor job of it. And I'd like to see, again, us pass a resolution expressing our concerns over the lack of preparedness and how they've handled this whole situation, and encouraging them to take whatever actions are necessary to get this addressed. What you don't want to see is these kids going into the schools 2 weeks from now and then basically doing virtual learning in their classrooms rather than in-person learning with the teachers. If you look at Europe, if you look at Asia, their kids are back in school, they're back in the classrooms. All the data that's come out show that children are not super spreaders. Teachers who consider themselves at risk can wear masks or can do virtual teaching. But it's very important that our kids get back to school, and I am extremely disappointed in how the county has handled this. So I'll just throw it out there for consideration, but I'd like to see this council pass a resolution that expresses that disappointment and encourages them to, again, take whatever actions are necessary to get this situation under control so our children can get back in school and they can be properly educated. The cost of their not being there, particularly in terms of their own development, socially, educationally, et cetera, I think has been understated in many cases, and I think it's significant. And like I said, I'm extremely disappointed in the way the county has handled this whole situation. So those are the two things I wanted to bring up.
Okay, thank you. Now, we can't do a resolution at the table.
I know.
At that time, so it would have to come back to another council meeting.
Understood.
Okay, but I'm curious if there are some comments from council on this now, before we bring a resolution back.
You're looking at me.
Pardon?
As to the reach out to Palm Beach County?
Yes.
School district?
Well, resolution, that's.
Directed to them.
Yeah, I've already reached out to them personally.
Well, I have too, but I'm talking about, a show from the community.
I'd be fine discussing, how we would do it as a group. I'd like to make it a group effort, though,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but myself personally, I've already been quite in touch with them
All right.
with my concerns.
Well, good. Thank you. Councilmember Prince?
I'm not sure that I really want to, I would like to dig into it a little bit further before I really make a comment stuff on it. When I start questioning the ability of our local, county government and the way that they've handled the restarting of our economy here in Palm Beach County. That's a pretty bold statement, I think, Frank, to be honest with you, for me just to dive in there and have to agree with you. I'd really want to do some more homework on it and maybe have a discussion or, to talk about it in much more detail before I would want to subpoena, towards the county to question their, what they've done.
All right. Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I think that's a good topic to bring up and to have the conversation. I know that this last workshop, I asked that the village reach out to the different local businesses and find out kind of who's open, who's closed. I think they went above and beyond, and we've identified some businesses and kind of what percentile are they back prior to COVID that took place. And we've got some local restaurants that we've all go to, and they're saying they're at 30%, even though they have the ability to go to 50%. So even though that we have the ability to go to 50, people are still not necessarily going out there. So if we were to go and make changes, would that create more business for these restaurants? And that would be something that I don't know that that's the case. But I do think we need to find a way to take this information and find a way to help these businesses. You know, Domino's on the list is at 100%, or I think it's 75%. Well, not people are going there. It's order take in,
Well, it's
take
takeout, right.
Correct.
Right.
Although you've got a flip-flop slip shop, it's at 100%, right? Again, it's takeout.
Okay.
But you've got McCarthy's.
Well, why don't, yeah.
So it's one of these things that I think we need to find ways to make sure our residents are aware of it and help them any way that we can. Regarding the schools, I've got 4 children. And it is a daunting task as a parent to try to make the decision whether to send your kids back to school or not. And I can't imagine what it's like for the children to have to be dealing with such concepts that I don't wish on anybody. So again, I don't know how much of an influence that we can have, but I'm open for that conversation, and I agree with Councilman Prince over there that it is, I think you'd have to be very, very careful in that aspect of how you present it.
Agreed with that, for sure. I think we are all looking at things that we would like the county to help us with. And, but you know what, why don't we bring it to a workshop and we can get a little more information. Jeremy, could you get us more information on that? So that I think you see this every single day. You're watching this like a hawk, and I know that. But maybe we can have this conversation at a workshop. Look at it a little bit more. Okay. Vice Mayor, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just in the last couple of, 6, 7 months, this has been quite the whirlwind, I think, for all of us. And I just want to, again, recognize the staff, how they've gone through this process and dealt with the information that at the time that they had it, and how they responded accordingly all across all departments, and their flexibility to get us back to this point. We understand the concern that everyone has, and just really commend all of you for such a good job of getting involved with the community, finding ways to help, getting information. I mean, the firefighters were out today passing out masks at the corner of Seabrook and Tequesta Drive. We're doing things with different food trucks to get people involved, try to have some sense of community when we're supposed to be staying apart. So I just want to commend the whole staff of the Village of Tequesta for an excellent job.
Thank you. Would you like?
Yeah, so aside from COVID stuff, I am very pleased that the council now has a manager that is actually taking action on putting together a plan with the village team for properties that the village owns, that we can actually turn them into something that's usable for the residents. They will be different styles, which I think is pleasing for the residents. But again, keyword residents, Tequesta is for the residents, and we should be always looking in their best interest and what we can give to them rather than taking things away. So I think it's great that we're going to utilize those properties in the future. School relation, it is a very difficult situation. We don't have a public school in Tequesta, so that, doesn't help us. But I have more faith in our local school that we do go to than the district. So nothing against the district, but they have a lot of ground to cover. They have 176,724 students across the county. I think our school is taking a better approach, knowing some things that they are doing on their own. They're making a very detailed plan, the best they can. And anything we can do to help parents understand better is my goal all the time. So even if we just have a conversation, whether we don't act on anything, but if we at least have a conversation as council, just we're all on the same informational level, I think we can work better with our residents as a council, being the advocates in our village. That's pretty much it.
Now, we're still talking about the schools at that point. Because
Yeah.
we're going to put that on we'll have an agenda at the next workshop, just so that I want to make sure there wasn't anything else you were bringing up.
No.
Okay.
Just I get it, it's a delicate matter, But it is what it is. We need to at least discuss it so we're all
Yep.
very aware, because not all of us have kids in the school system, and some of us have kids in different types of schools, whether it's private or charter or preschool or the public school. They're all very different. They all do their own thing. But I think us working as a team and being on the same page is great for the residents.
I agree. Councilmember Prince?
I have nothing to say.
All right. I also came with wanting to thank the staff. I think everybody realizes so many of our staff are working from home. They are rotating, if you will, but they haven't dropped the ball. It's wonderful, and I'm so grateful, and I'm happy that our manager, Jeremy, has put this together and kept it going the way you did. We've never seen, all of us, we know this. This is, I don't want to use the word there, unprecedented. But I just wanted to thank the staff, and I was glad that the vice mayor got there first. Thank you. All right, so let's go to our standing reports, and we'll get a report from Village Attorney Davis.
Nice to see Mayor and Council all back in person. Most all of my work lately has been behind the scenes with staff, but if you have any questions about anything in particular, I'll be happy to try and answer them for you.
Anything for?
Thank you.
No? You're doing a great job. All right, let's move on to our manager. I'm sure he has a few things to talk about.
Thank you. I had sent out our staff reports, so if you have additional questions on those, I think most of our staff that has submitted those reports are here. We can answer any questions on that. Kudos to our police and fire. If you haven't heard, POTUS was in town on Tuesday along with the governor, so I know they worked through the weekend. I know that was a very fluid situation that I think started on Saturday with working with other entities such as Secret Service and Palm Beach County and, Jupiter Inlet Colony and Jupiter, and just working with all that. I mean, the chiefs did a great job, and, appreciate the team for being flexible through that whole situation, because it was a fluid situation. I know I was getting texts that was changing the dynamics of it on a regular basis. So I will say that we have kind of turned a corner on the meter replacement project. I think we have 51% of the meters that are connected and reporting at this time, but kudos to Matt and his team. They've been really trying to be proactive with this process. We had a couple months of averaging, and so now we're doing some actuals, and so they have took it upon themselves to really try to get ahead of the curve. Any differences between the averages and the now actual readings, they're reaching out to those customers before they're getting their bill and just kind of letting them know, similar to what they're going to be able to do once they get online and be able to do it themselves. But Matt and his team have been working extremely hard just on the customer service side, which is what we all asked for, is just that customer service part of it. And so I think Matt's doing a great job with really trying to get ahead of the curve. Thank Brad and Lori for their work to get the streaming the council meetings. I know it hasn't been without flaws. You guys see this product and people will see it online, but it didn't go without some hiccups. So thank Doug and Chief True for their help in trying to get us to this point where we feel safe and we're in this environment. So thanks to those guys. And we just continue to monitor, COVID, and just remind everybody to be vigilant until it's over. We're taking some strides, and we're getting to this phase 2, and hopefully some expanded phase 3, and beyond. So just continue until we get to a point where we got this thing, beat. Just continue to be vigilant. Don't forget that it's here. So that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We do receive these reports from the various departments, and we thought that it might be best if, unless there's questions, they don't have to reread them to us. Mm-hmm. So I guess at this time, do you have any questions for our police chief, who isn't here, but Jeremy will step in? Were there any on that police report? No? Mm-hmm. How about Chief True? Yours are very comprehensive. Very comprehensive, but thank you. Thank you for that.
We started it like a sit rep and it just sort of carried on.
Yeah, that's what I understand. And of course, Matt is here as well. Any questions about what he's doing? No? All right, thank you. Let's move to the regular agenda. We have no old business. We have new business, SPR 1-20, item number 11. Nielsen?
Quiz on judicial.
Yes.
So, let me see.
Hi, Keith.
You swear or affirm under
I
oath
always.
that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
To everyone who's going to be speaking to the council. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Then back to council. We need disclosure of any ex parte discussions regarding this item at this time. No. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Nielsen?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. It's so nice to be back to the chambers. I really appreciate this. The application that is in front of you is for a site plan review to build a one-story, 14,799 square foot recreational facility. This application also includes a monument sign and revised parking and landscaping plans. The subject application was in front of you last month for a special exception use approval. Then the application moved forward and it was heard by the Planning and Zoning Board. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval. This is the Village of Tequesta Community Center. So the application was reviewed by the Development Review Committee. That includes our fire chief, law enforcement, Matt, thank you, Matt, and then also building, our landscape architect, Mr. Steve Parker, our traffic engineer, and planning, including Lance and myself. So that was, we did a very extensive review, everybody cooperated, and the applicant has a presentation for you. And I also want to extend a special thanks to Christine Merrill. She is the project manager for REG, and she really did an exceptional job as an applicant to keep the project moving forward. So thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. For the record, Donaldson Hearing with Kotler and Hearing here tonight on behalf of our team. Christine certainly got a great introduction, but also have to introduce my good friend and colleague, Mr. Rick Gonzalez with REG Architects. Rick and I work together on a number of public projects and village halls and town halls across the state. And also with us is Mr. George Missiver, who is a project planner on the project. So I've been working very closely with Nielsa, and which is always a pleasure. I get to see Nielsa quite often because we work together out at the city of Westlake. So it's a lot of fun. So it's been our pleasure and our honor to work here with the village on this project, which is the community center, which is located at Constitution Park. We had the opportunity to present to you, Madam Mayor, in early August when we presented the variance for the parking, which was approved by your staff. We went on to the Planning and Zoning Board a few weeks ago, back in late August, and they unanimously recommended approval to you this evening. And we're hoping that we can get your approval tonight so that the project can continue forward accordingly. So let me run through. Oh, maybe I got it the other way. Oops. Battery came on. Oops. There you go, you're going. Good. All right, well, we've already introduced our team, so I won't go backwards. So on the aerial this evening is the location of the site. Obviously, all of you are familiar with Constitution Park, just north of Dover and west of Seabrook. And the intent here is to replace the existing community center with a new facility, approximately 15,000 square feet, as Nielsen pointed out, and located in the same general location. There's very minimal impacts to the park, as you can see, and they're generally the existing parking configuration or vehicular use area will remain generally the same. We're enhancing that, creating increase in public safety, adding landscaping, improving signage, and then also adding some on-street parking to facilitate guests off of Dover Road. There we go. These are just some images which we showed you before of the existing condition. I know you're very familiar with it. The existing building, of course, was built many years ago. It's an old one-story structure, flat, low roof, and we're having the opportunity to convert the facility into a new state-of-the-art facility that will meet the needs of your residents. I spoke earlier with one of the younger residents of the Village of Tequesta, who's a planner with the City of Palm Beach Gardens, and he was extremely excited about the proposed project. As Nielsen pointed out, we are asking for site plan review and approval from this board this evening, and we received the unanimous recommendation from City Council. As a part of the request, there is a special exception approval required, and that's because all properties within this particular zoning and land use district require a special exception approval, although they're generally considered permitted facilities. And of course, the variance you have previously seen and approved. The overall site's about 4 acres in total size, and we're basically increasing the capacity of the existing building by almost double. More importantly, we're able to create a state-of-the-art facility with the right volumes, the right space planning, to really become a great multi-purpose facility to support the needs of the residents. We have a total of 55 parking spaces that are provided, 15 of which are located on Dover. 60 were originally required. Of course, this is located in a pedestrian area, and it is located adjacent to other commercial areas with large parking fields. From a schedule perspective, we're hoping to get your approval today and be under construction in the first quarter of 2021 and completed in 2022. As we discussed probably at greater length during our first presentation, that the programming all came out of your engagement of your community to get their input and what they were interested in, as well as responding to the requirements of your comprehensive plan, which has specific goals, objectives, and policies for providing these types of facilities. So, as I noted, the ingress and egress to the site is being greatly improved. We're adding and making the entire facility ADA compliant, and we've been able to provide some parking on Dover, which really will be convenient. I know so often moms and others like to take their kids over to the various amenities and parks, and that on-street parking really will be quite convenient for those wanting to access the facility from the south. So this is a black and white version of the site plan. I'll kind of go into some more details in a moment. But just hone in on this site. So you can see the relationship of the proposed building, which is located to the west on the image that's in front of you, and how we were able to connect to and relate to the existing facilities within the park. And in this image, you can see the largest space that's taken up by the facility is the indoor multi-purpose area. It can accommodate a basketball court, volleyball. There's also administration space and multi-purpose meeting rooms for all types of uses by village residents. And the nice part is there's great circulation, so you can come right in from the facility from Seabrook, go into the facility, there's a reception area, and very easily loop right out to the back to the park and enjoy activities that are occurring within the park. And so here's a three-dimensional rendering. And Rick and his team did an amazing job of really taking a facility that required some volume, meaning the basketball and auditorium area needed some volume, and to be able to break it down in scale in a very, very simple way, so it's cost effective, but also making sure that it maintained the village of Tequesta scale and feel. And he's done that in a very elegant way, keeping the overall height of the building low, and you'll see that in some of the other images that I'll show you. Here's another image, and often you'll see designers try to accomplish this and they don't really pull it off right and it doesn't feel right. This is well done, very, very strong sense of entrance, right off of Seabrook with the architectural tower element. Very simple, cost-effective metal seam roof, horizontal siding. Definitely feels like it's the Village of Tequesta type of a feel. These are the elevations of the building. So classic architectural design, classic proportions, which is one of the things that REG is known for, their understanding of historical precedences and bring it into architecture that can stand the true test of time. This is just a view from the back, from the park, so there's an outdoor porch area to provide a little bit of cover, and again, it engages the park quite nicely. We were able to save all those big trees back there, which as a landscape architect, which I am, it is very, very important to us to work with and save so many of the trees that exist on the site. Again, the floor plan, the pink spaces are those multi-purpose activity areas. They can be used as large rooms or broken down into small rooms. The blue and the green, more of your administration space, and the yellow, the circulation space that leads out to the back. And you also note that there's an attempt to provide some restroom space to the park, so you don't have to come into the building in order to utilize the facility. So very carefully considered for all the different user groups which we'll have at the park. This is landscaping. Landscaping's been reviewed by your team and your staff, but again, we try to be very, very thoughtful about it, so the materials are materials that are generally indigenous to Florida, that they're going to stand the test of time. We were able to maintain the trees. On the northern boundary, we have power lines, so we have to deal with those types of issues. But we really tried to come up with something that would really respond to the architecture. So it's got a very strong relationship to the overall building design. So when you'll see it, you'll see that it will enhance the architecture, not just hide it. The plant materials, a lot of nice palette, some interesting palms that are indigenous to South Florida. We have some thatch palms and old man palms and European fan palms, as well as a number of other native, more old world type plants. So these aren't things that a typical nurseryman is going to go out and plant, but these are things that are really going to feel like they're a part of the overall design. A lot of nice shrubs. We've introduced some clusia, some plant that we call Diune spinulosa, which is kind of an interesting plant. Again, these are plants that I worked with Roy Rood many, many years ago when he was alive on Jupiter Island. And so these are plants that have been around for a long time and have stood the test of time. We have developed a entry gate portal, which was one of your staff's recommendations and desires, so that there was a real entranceway off of Dover, that it just didn't feel like you were going through a chain link fence. And so that ties in with the building architecture, the building signage. Of course, we had to provide for refuse, so even our dumpster areas have been upgraded so that they tie in or are friendly to not only our pedestrians, but others that pass by. So here's a vision of that portal. And this is a fairly realistic photo. It almost looks like it's there already. So you'll see some of the detailing and the architecture ties in with the brackets that you saw on the front elements, picket fence, the gateway, just a nice entranceway into the park from the south, which helps define the space, which is a good thing in terms of public-private privacy, security, but also creates a nice welcoming sense to anybody who wants to visit from the village. And with that, I know I talked a lot. I haven't been able to do this for a long time, so Madam Mayor, Abby, I appreciate the opportunity to be out here and to make a real live presentation. And again, our entire team is here, and they certainly would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
This has been a long time coming, so I'm sure there's some questions here. Yes?
I've got two. On Dover, on the east side, there was a structure. It was like the first parking spot. Is that for trash? There's something there. Is that what it is?
Right, so, and let me see if I can go back to this, to the site plan, if it'll go backwards here for us. There we go. So what we tried to do was to, let me see if I have to go all the way back to Dover. I might have to go back a little bit further. What we tried to do was to integrate the dumpster area so that it was adjacent to the lift station, which was made a natural area. You can't see it.
Oh.
So you can do that. I'll move it back for you.
Okay.
Keep going. I'll move the dumpster image.
Yes.
That one there.
That one. Oh, that
One
one.
more, okay, here we
The
go.
builder one.
There we go, all right.
That one.
That one.
That one.
It's just a delayed reaction. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a trellis feature, you know, too, so it's landscape.
Okay, but that's what that is?
Yes.
And then drawing, okay. Just curious. And then the second question, the ideas for where we can put the Constitution.
Where we put the Constitution?
Put the Constitution.
Was it being
Cornerstone.
painted?
Do you want to do a freestanding type of monument within the park?
Well, we did, at the Old County Courthouse, which we restored in downtown, we did the cornerstone. I think this would be a great opportunity, like Don just said, to incorporate a cornerstone on the entrance side, on the southeast corner of the building. I think that would be fabulous. If that's, we haven't really talked about that yet.
So that would be, to me, the strongest.
Embedded into the building facade, you know, so people can see it.
Perfect.
Would be beautiful. Yeah. How about you?
As the mayor said, this has been a long time in coming, and I am very pleased with the work that's been done. I've had the opportunity to work with Rich and his crew and Christine for, going back quite a while, and to see this come to fruition is just absolutely fantastic. The one thing I would question in the timeline you gave, because the village manager and I have talked about this extensively, is I do hope we can compress that timeline. You were showing demolition of the building in March. I hope to God that that demolition takes place more like December and January, and we can really get this thing moving forward. If it's at all humanly possible, I'd like to see this building available for next fall. We're going to miss out on another summer season. I'd hate to miss out on the start of the school year next year. So I know you guys are working on this. I know we've talked about this before, but and I don't want to take any shortcuts, but we want to compress it and move as quickly as we can, but still deliver the quality product that we're looking to.
Frank, the village manager's on top of it. We're actually tomorrow morning have the open house for the contractors.
Okay, good.
And I've asked Christine, by the way, Christine lives in the village too. Her son's already 3 years old, right? So he wants to start playing basketball soon. So the pressure's on her too.
I've met that little guy, and that's what we've talked about. We said, we got to get this done so he can actually use it.
So we have a team under Christine, and I told them we're trying to accelerate the design schedule to December instead of late January.
Okay.
And so we've been working very close with Jeremy, and we're going to try to shave time as much as possible.
And Jeremy and I have talked about this too. So the only reason I brought it up was because I saw that date on that timeline. And so, all right, well, listen, again, I appreciate all the great work you guys have done, and really looking forward to seeing this project delivered.
So another question just came up, that you're meeting with the list of contractors. Can you identify how you went through that process and who they are?
So my partner, Colin, in the office does all the construction supervision, and he's written a white paper a while back for municipalities explaining the type of delivery methods. You probably have heard of design build, you've heard of design bid build, and then construction management at risk. So we have worked with Jeremy on that typology, and we're going to pursue the construction management at risk. Why? Because it gives you the best value when you have a design. We have a design already. If you go hard bid, usually in a market like this right now, you get very low prices, and then it's a battle to finish the project. If you do design build, then it's driven by the builder, and he's just concerned about the cost and not the design. So when you do it this route, which is what we're doing, you have quality design, and you're going to go get a quality contractor. The idea is going to be to, we've invited a lot of very good contractors. They're showing a lot of interest from South Florida, from Palm Beach County, to narrow it down to 4 or 5, interview them, and then work with them and get to a guaranteed maximum price as we finish the plans, so that you're comfortable with that final budget, and we can go all the way to the execution of the building and have a very nice building under a specific budget.
Is that meeting taking place here at the village?
Tomorrow morning, where is it going to be?
What time is that taking place?
At 9 o'clock, right?
Okay.
9:30.
It's 9 o'clock in the EOC, and it's also.
Oh, it's in the EOC?
It's also going to be via Zoom. It's for those that can.
Okay.
And who's selecting the contractor?
That would be the village.
All right, and
Yeah, I've just got one question I'd ask about this a while back about a generator, to be able to support the building. Should the city need to, put people in there during a disaster or what have you and stuff? And I can't, I think you guys are going to check into it. Where are we at with that, being able to get?
So a generator is planned as an option, depending on pricing. It's in the northwest corner of the building. Even if it's not put in the first phase, it'll be fully wired, designed, all the connections will be put in, and that would end up being, natural gas is not available, so it would end up being propane, would be the methodology that we would be going in. So that's something that will be discussed as they go through the contracting and bidding price.
Okay, thank you.
We have shared with them that it's not going to be an alternate. We do plan on putting it in. I know Christine just sent me an email just recently about it being in and what are all our requirements and all that. So I know that your suggestion is to put it in. Our intent was to have it in, so we will be working to make sure that it's in. It does have a spot on the site plan already, so I understand and we have the same want to make sure that's part of the process.
Thank you, Jeremy.
And that ties into my main question that comes up often with residents, is they want confirmation that it's going to be a building to withstand a Cat 4 or 5, so that way afterwards, we can't use it obviously for a shelter or anything, but the fact that it'll be there afterwards,
Yes.
especially if we put all this money in it, people are definitely wanting to make sure it is going to be built for that.
We have designed multiple emergency centers. For example, Seacoast Utility, they're about to occupy that's a tank, right? That is a hurricane emergency building, right? This will be a very strong building, and we recommend this now to all our municipal clients, to go through the effort of building. This is the best case study, is your building, because it's going to be strong enough to be a place to take care of people after an event. We all remember, I was in Juno Beach 2004, 2005, and we were without power for 3 weeks. And for seniors, in particular, there are a lot of seniors that live nearby the facility. Wouldn't it be great if they had a place with a little bit of air conditioning, some warm food, or in a worst case event, a place where you could put some cots in there and you could have, use it as temporary shelter, without it being a designated shelter. But the generator is going to help with that. The facilities are such that you have the flexibility to at least, serve people and get them out of the heat, especially if it's this time of the year, right, when it's really hot and humid.
Okay, thank you. I just feel like it's not mentioned enough. It's always kind of left out. My second question is, you are a landscape architect or designer?
I'm a landscape architect.
Architect,
so,
and it's going to be you overseeing the landscape going in, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm very, I've been practicing here in Jupiter for just a little over 30 years. And was mentored by Roy Rood many years ago. If any of you guys remember Mr. Rood, when he was around, had a big presence here. So we're very picky about landscaping and design. I designed it myself, just to get a hand off to some junior person. Although we have a staff of 40, it was very important to me to do something special here with Rick, and I do that on all the projects I work on with Rick. So it'll be very, very nice, and I can promise you that.
Okay. I only ask also because the village has always been environmentally aware, but becoming more aware of the environment and all the water that surrounds us and being Florida friendly and all that.
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, it really makes, it doesn't cost much more to be thoughtful and choose plants that can sustain themselves in the place where you're putting them. And that doesn't always happen. But we've got a very nice, predominantly native palette with a lot of great plants on it that will be, something that will make the building look good and will stand the test of time.
All right, thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you both. This has been a long time for you as well, but it was so important to this council that we do it right, we put it in the right place, we have everything that we're looking for, and I think now we have that, and I certainly appreciate that, Mr. Gonzalez, and thank you so much for being here. And I don't know what else to say. I'm so excited about this now, I can't. So we're going to move forward, and may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can, I'd like to just ask one quick question. This is related, but last month we approved the trailer, but I understand there's been a couple of hiccups as far as getting that trailer in place. And Jeremy, if you could just kind of speak to where we stand with that whole situation?
So we are working on an alternative trailer that, we are working on an alternative trailer that, that we can use. That one particular wasn't, hurricane proof, or it doesn't stand the test of our wind, requirements.
Potential wind.
So we're working on alternative for the same site, so we will bring that back if needed. Because they were talking about some additional costs, and I know your motion was specific that it had to be within that same budget, so
Right.
we're working to try to keep that budget, but if not, we will bring it back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got one more question. Do we have any affluent water available here in the city? I mean, what happens to our affluent water?
That would be you, Matt.
Sure, good evening. So wastewater for the Village of Tequesta is covered by the Waxahachie River District.
Mm-hmm.
Their effluent water, they treat their water to public access reclaimed water standards. And they have several sites that they deliver that to. There are 3, I believe, within our service area, but none in residential. There is that I'm aware of. There's 3 different golf courses in our area in southern Martin County that they deliver public access reclaimed water to.
I was just curious, because of the demand for water is getting greater and greater as the population continues to grow, and the use of affluent water certainly takes a lot of pressure off of having to come up with water to supply the demand. And I was just curious if there was any water available that they could use at the center.
Oh, at the community center?
Mm-hmm.
Not within a reasonable distance.
Okay, all right. That was what I was asking.
The Turtle Creek area is the closest that,
Okay.
That I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Ones available to them.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to item 12, Resolution 29-20, this having to do with the modification of the EMS transport user fees. And Chief True.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Council, Mr. Manager, Village Attorney, and our Village Clerk. First of all, it is good to be back. I hope everybody can hear me okay. What you have before you is a resolution to raise transport user fees to a level in line with other surrounding agencies. If this is approved, we will still maintain, excuse me, the lowest transport user fees as far as fire rescue agencies go in Palm Beach County. So basically what I'm asking the council to consider is to get us to market value. Simple as that. I would expect our revenues on this to increase somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 per year. There will be a slight uptick as far as write-offs as well. That's it. Any
All right.
questions?
Chief, I do have a couple questions. Let's say we have, obviously we have different circumstances, but let's start out with one. Somebody has Medicare, they have supplemental insurance.
Mm-hmm.
The Medicare and the supplemental insurance does not cover the entire bill.
Right.
How do we treat that balance?
Typically,
And I'm
when
speaking now specifically for a resident.
Right. So typically, when we accept Medicare, we have to accept what Medicare's allowed us. They basically contract with Medicare to accept that payment. If there is no payment at that point, that becomes a write-off. So that's the write-off. So that would be the difference between what Medicare pays and basically what we charge.
So if they have a sub.
Hugh, is that accurate? I want to make sure I'm saying that right.
The difference between the contractual write-off
Right.
versus writing off an uncollectible debt, it's 2 separate things.
2 separate things. So this would be that would be the first part. So let me back up and rephrase that. That first part is not, it's not considered a write-off, and we're going to get to that here directly. It's just the difference between what is contracted by Medicare and what we would say is our billing rate. So in other words, if I bill 500, Medicare says 400, that 100 is basically not part of the contract. The 400 becomes part of the contract. So as long as I receive payment from everybody, then I would have a 100% collection rate. If I receive payment from 80% of the people, I have an 80% collection rate. That difference would be the write-offs. But I don't want to get too much into that because that's actually the next topic.
So if they have Medicare and then they have a Medicare supplement on top of that, whatever that combined payment is, that's all we're going to charge them?
That's all we would get, yes.
Anything above and beyond that would be a write-off? Okay.
Yes, sir.
In the Exhibit A that you sent out, it shows that the mileage is, Medicare allowable was 7.61, and then in the proposed rates, it says that currently we're using 10 and our proposed is 12.
Yes.
How do we get Medicare to agree that mileage number that they're using currently perhaps is understated?
Medicare does a review of the area agencies that do the transport periodically. So in fact, by being at a lower rate, we're holding everybody back. So this is my attempt to move us up. If you look at all of Palm Beach County, moving to 12 still puts us at the bottom of that range. Everybody's at 12. I see a 1350, a 1450. 12 seem to be the average of the bottom. So the proposal here is simply to come up to the bottom tier. If you look at ours, if you look at that page 2 there in the appendix, we're at 10. The Palm Beach County average is 1255. We're at 435 on BLS. The Palm Beach County average is $690. On ALS1, we're at 500. They're at 707, and so forth. So you see that we're well off average. The proposal here simply took the lowest in each category, and I'm asking council to bring us to that mark. I didn't want to go a lot further than that because I'm already asking you to go up almost 40%.
Yeah. So is the 7.61, are they, for example, is that being determined because they're looking at the location of our station and how far it is to Jupiter Medical, or?
No.
Because obviously.
How Medicare decides they want to pay 7.61, I quite honestly do not.
Okay, that's, so it's kind of
It's one of those. Entirely up to.
It's one of those government algorithms that's a big mystery. Okay.
I do know they take into consideration your surrounding agencies.
Okay.
Other than that, how they arrive at it.
But given the mileage rates everyone else is charging, you are somewhat hopeful that Medicare might be accepting?
They typically evaluate and they move it up incrementally.
Okay.
And I want to say that last year they moved it up, it was a couple of pennies.
Okay.
They moved it up a couple of dollars across the board in each one of these categories. It was not a substantial jump.
Okay. All right.
So I guess, I don't want to go too far here, but do I expect them to suddenly raise their rates? No, I don't.
Dennis?
Yep.
Anything from you, Vice Mayor?
I'm just curious if we know the actual cost for the mileage that we pay as a.
Cost of the mileage?
I mean, what is the actual?
He's saying the actual cost of transport.
The actual cost of transport, in other words, everything that we put into the truck, all the pieces of equipment, all of the medications.
The last year's actual cost.
If you broke it down per call.
That's, obviously the most expensive thing on there is going to be your personnel. That's something I can get for you. I don't have enough stuff in there.
That amount, to me, it seems like we're playing a game with Medicare. Why don't we just put what the actual cost is for the previous year? And that's what it is.
It's something I can bring back to you.
I'm just curious if it's anywhere near what everyone else is doing. That's it.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yep.
anything else? All right. Do I have a, sorry? Resolution 29-20, I was going to ask, yes?
Yeah, I'll need to read the title for
Okay.
the record. Resolution 2920, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, authorizing upward modification of EMS transport fees to keep rates comparable with other Palm Beach County ambulance transport services identified in Exhibit A, and authorizing village manager to proceed on behalf of the village.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Chief, you're staying there, good. Item 13, Resolution 30-20. Keith, you want to read that?
Yes,
first?
ma'am. This is Resolution 30-20, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, authorizing the write-off of uncollectible EMS transport user fees as identified in the attached Exhibit A, authorizing village manager to proceed on behalf of the village, providing effective date and for other purposes. Just make sure the council's aware there was an amendment to the resolution and compared to what was in the original backup, and the title I just read is as amended.
All right, thank you. Chief, you want to tell us about writing all of these fees off?
Okay, so it's a resolution to approve the write-offs of uncollectible transport fees in the amount of $71,107.14. These uncollectible fees are from dates ranging from February 4th of 2017 through September 30th of 2018. The change in the reading is it says in your original copy that there's an appropriation. There is no appropriation. We have the money available to do this. I'll take questions.
Any questions about the write-offs?
No.
No? I've seen these. And are you doing it every year now to keep up?
Yes, we are doing it every year now. And that was a issue we kind of ran into in the past, and we're trying to catch up. So that's why but you can expect to see us probably every August, September.
All right. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 14, Ordinance 0620, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 0620, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78, Zoning, Article 1 in general, Section 78-4, definitions, to amend and create definitions for terms related to sign identification and regulation. Also amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78, Zoning, Article 11, signs, to conform Village Code to recent legal precedent regarding signs and provide internal consistency, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes.
Do you want to give us the Reader's Digest version?
This, the council has seen this ordinance pretty much in the same form that you have it tonight. This amends the sign code with an emphasis on our temporary sign regulations to bring us into conformance with the current state of the law and recent Supreme Court cases over the past several years regarding temporary signs, things that we used to call, political signs and for sale signs. We now kind of distinguish between commercial speech, non-commercial speech. We have specific regulations that address both kinds of temporary signs. We've updated our definitions in conformance with those regulations. Doesn't necessarily change a lot of substance in what your former sign code was, but it updates the way we deal with temporary signs and how there's no longer any distinctions, especially on the non-commercial side in terms of, political sign versus a sign advertising a church service versus a happy birthday sign. We do distinguish commercial speech, which in terms of temporary signage are things like for sale, for rent, open house, that type of thing. And generally under the law, you're able to have a bit more teeth in your regulations of commercial speech than you are non-commercial speech, and this ordinance addresses all that as you've seen it in your past workshop meetings over the past several months.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing now open for council comment.
I'd like to bring up a concept I really think the council will consider for some of our local businesses, as well as signs for residents' benefits, such as HOAs, trying to inform them of a meeting. If the village would work with those entities on a permit regulation, where someone would pull a permit, getting permission from the village to put a sign in the right-of-way for, let's say, 24 to 48 hours for a special event, such as an open house, and have regulations on it has to be removed at X amount of time after the event. And if it's a neighborhood meeting of any sort, whether it's Tequesta Pines or Bayview or whatever, they have X amount of time to put it out for residents' benefit to know what's going on, and then remove it by a certain time. the way that a lot of these neighborhoods, especially referring to those neighborhood signs for meetings, there's not a lot of great places in open areas to inform residents without putting it in some sort of right-of-way. And I'm not talking on the road, main road like Tequesta Drive or even Seabrook, but any of the corners, it all falls in the right-of-way. And a lot of the neighborhoods are gonna have an issue informing residents of there's stuff going on. And I don't think that's beneficial to the residents. With open houses, especially with the bridge going down too and businesses, I'd hate to see us be so strict about not allowing anything to where I think we can build a relationship doing some sort of permit access, getting permission. I'm not saying it has to be one sign. Limit of signs, I think there's a lot of ways we could do it. But I don't think we should even do one way or the other. Does that make sense?
No, I
Questions?
hear you. But I
Okay.
think there's some other comments that we're trying to go ahead. Vice Mayor.
I'd like to hear your comments.
Pardon?
I'd like to hear your comments.
Well, I feel, I believe that if we are going to enforce the sign ordinance, it has to be across the board. Because as soon as we say, well, a church can have it for their Sunday service, or an open house sign can go up for the day, there's going to be another business that's going to come in and say, well, how come they're doing it and I can't do it? And I'm concerned about that. I like the idea. I hear what you're saying about helping the residents, the HOA, but for the realtors, there are many communities that don't allow those signs in their, the open house signs. And I think that it was the Vice Mayor had brought this up to begin with, is in terms of signage, and if we were going to enforce what we have on the books. So that's kind of where I am. I'm still in the court of not having these signs at all. I just think it's a slippery slope.
And I can agree to that to some angle, but at the same time, we have a lot of local businesses. I will use the Realers as an example. There's a handful of them that are local. They also happen to be Tequesta residents, so they're paying property tax plus business tax. Plus they're actually selling the houses at a top rate, which actually flips the house. If the house was under homestead, then it renews. So they're actually bringing a positive aspect to the village. And I'd hate to really kind of rag on them, especially when a lot of them are actually really good about it. They put the sign out, they take it down quickly, it's not sitting out there for days. Garage sale signs, I mean, that's different. Those sometimes do sit out there for days and days and days. I think we should at least be open to working with our local realtors, maybe not an outside one. If the office isn't located in Tequesta, if it's a Tequesta business and they're doing business in Tequesta, benefiting Tequesta and the residents, I think we should be open to allowing them to pull a simple permit for permission.
Well, we do have permits now for the garage sales, and it does say
Right.
how many
Exactly.
signs.
So I don't know why we can't do that for a local open house. Let's say a local realtor that is part of the Tequesta Business Association.
Keith, would we be able to just give one realtor who lives in Tequesta and works in Tequesta and not others?
It's not just one, I mean, like.
No, I don't think you could
there's multiple.
make that distinction
That would be
without
very-
exposing yourself.
That, I think, is what I'm coming back to.
So you're correct. I think if it's an ordinance that we have, it's been passed, I think we should absolutely follow it. That's why we have it there. But I also think we should listen, and I agree with you, Lori, that we should maybe give an option for a permitted and really tighten it up to where if you have an open house, they can come put a sign up on that weekend, and, there's a cost to that. We have to talk about whether or not that makes sense, and work with the local, like you said, HOAs. I know that there were some HOA signs that were pulled out, and they're just trying to have a meeting and communicate to their citizens. I know that they're talked to some realtors as well, and I'm open to having that discussion, to allow that to happen. I just want to make sure that what we have on an ordinance is passed, we should follow it.
We should follow it.
Well, I think the other part of this, though, is every time we pass something like this, we create regulatory issues and enforcement issues. And I agree with the village attorney. I'm not sure, from a commerce standpoint, we could restrict it to a realtor who lives in Tequesta versus a realtor who is outside of Tequesta but has clients in Tequesta. So I think, going back to what both the mayor and the vice mayor have said, I think what people were looking for was consistency. I mean, the last time we talked about this, I brought up the issue of the political signs. Could we have a window, for, a week or 10 days or whatever, before and after? And, we said, again, there's problems with opening up those kinds of exceptions. I think that the idea is admirable. I think the notion of it is, I understand why, it would be nice to be able to do something like that. But I'm not sure that the complications we would be creating for ourselves, and then again, issues of fairness, would not impede our ability to control this and to regulate it properly.
And even aside from realtors, what about HOAs?
I think you gotta be careful in designating groups. I think you gotta
I know,
look at-
I'm asking though, because it's really hard when you can't inform residents. And by law, like, you have to inform, you can't just do things behind their back.
Well, I've lived in other states where we've had HOAs, and we didn't put signs out. I mean, we either notified people electronically, or we had a little newsletter that we did for the community. I mean, there's lots of ways to notify people about.
We do, I know in our neighborhood, we do most of them.
Okay,
We do
so if you.
internet, emails, but not every, like the lady next door to me, she's not on the internet.
Well, but if you do a little newsletter and put it in the mailbox, I mean, there's lots of ways to notify people. And again, it's the old adage of, you can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, but then the individual has to take some responsibility for making sure that they're informed. I mean, you can't just, you can't use the excuse, well, nobody told me. There's so many ways to find out today. And usually these meetings happen in a certain routine with a certain regularity, tend to happen at the same time of year. So if you're interested, and you're communicating electronically, or you're putting a little notice in the mailbox or whatever, I don't think it's that hard for people to be aware of when these things are taking place.
Yeah, and we talked, with the realtors and open houses, pretty much everybody has GPS now if they're coming through, or they just drive up and down the streets, and
that I can go 50-50 on. Like, I don't love the idea of people roaming as many streets looking for the open house as opposed to having a directional, say it's in this neighborhood or it's down this block. But I could, at the same time, it also draws people in if they're cruising around.
Right.
I'm 50-50 on that, but I also don't love people getting lost in Tequesta either. I'd rather give them some sort of directional aspect.
Keith, we talked about this a little bit. First of all, this has been kicking around for as long as I've been here, 10 years.
Yeah.
It's gone back and forth, back and forth.
And I agree with that, and I know we have, that's why I was a little hesitant to bring it up.
No, please
But I
do.
think if we even did a permit aspect to it, it gives the village some regulation to approve even the look of a sign. I mean, the person could even present the sign and get it approved by the village, so that way we can, make sure it's not displeasing to the eye and everything. And it could be a fee to it. I've spoken to many people, they have no problem paying a small fee for it. Then the village gets something out of it as well.
To regulate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm open to this discussion.
We don't have to, Keith, what were you saying about getting this passed and then coming back? If we had more discussion, it would be,
So
get this passed.
My suggestion would be to ask the council to pass this on first reading as written. This is a very targeted, but it could be a complicated topic. Not only, we can possibly figure out a permitting process that works. Something to keep in mind, the average person isn't going to make the distinction between commercial speech and non-commercial speech, and did they get a permit and didn't they get a permit, and why their sign can be out, why can't mine be out? So, to the vice mayor's point, enforcement will be painful. But that would be my suggestion on how to proceed tonight, at least.
And then we can go back to a workshop.
That's fine, and I'd like to
this
discuss,
even more.
I'd like to discuss the enforcement, because I know you've brought up weekend issues as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're gonna be talking about enforcement, it's either gonna be
That's
full
right.
force or not, so.
And they have to work on the weekend to do it.
Yep, so, I mean, we might as well throw that into the discussion, just to tighten
Right.
up, like Mr. Sun, just to tighten up some of the
Yeah.
clarity on the.
I think we're going back to workshop on this, Jeremy. I'm thinking, get your take on this, but we may need a workshop just for this, because we go through it, it's a huge ordinance to go through, all the things that we want to do, and maybe we just need to have a workshop for this, or we'll just spend a workshop and all the other items. Just thought process.
Well, if we're going to focus on the permitting aspect of it, I'm not sure we have to go through the entire ordinance again. I think it's just a matter of
Yeah,
saying,
I'd like to focus on just the permit
could we come
aspect,
up
okay, regulated.
with a permit concept without creating a huge regulatory burden or an enforcement
Right.
burden that would work? But you couldn't just limit it to Tequesta businesses.
I get that.
Yeah.
I was just throwing out there in case everyone was
Yeah.
being favorable to just Tequesta.
Yeah. Well, it'd be great if we could, but again,
I
I think we
understand
run
that.
into issues on
I
that.
agree, I think we should focus specifically on
Yeah.
the permitting
Yeah.
aspect.
All right, that's a great suggestion.
All right,
So,
but focus on the permit aspect.
yep, that's what
Don't
we're
go, I
saying.
know, okay, perfect.
You try to stay.
Don't
out
need to go down the rabbit hole too much.
True, and Keith will help us make sure that, I'm just wondering if a restaurant can't say, well, I get a permit, I just want my sign up.
For sure, but that's where I think if it was regulated, just working with the village,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what their sign's gonna be, the size, the look, where
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna put it, and then it can fall in if Jeremy sees it, well, it's a little too close to that sidewalk for safety reasons, we're gonna ask you. I feel like it'll build a better relationship working together with the businesses and then the residents as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. So that'll go on for the next, is there anything else that we want to discuss on this?
That is it, thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Oh, open to the public.
Thank you. Oh, well, who is here from the public?
No one.
Thank you, Lori. Seeing none. Seeing none. All right.
I'll make a motion to,
I'll close the hearing now. I have to, all right, so the hearing is now closed, and the motion? Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 15, up there, right? Ordinance 8-20, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 8-20, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 70, Taxation, Article 4, Public Service Tax, Division 2, Electricity, Gas, and Water, Section 70-121, tax levied by repealing the, quote, per gallon basis, end quote, for the collection of tax on water, but leaving unchanged the rate of 9%, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 70 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify, effective date, and further purposes.
Do you want to give us anything else on that?
All this does is unwinds the ordinance from earlier in the year that added the per gallon basis language to the water collection.
Right, all right,
And
thank
if
you.
you will look, it should be in the staff report, I've added that, but it basically defines what water service is, which is, basically how we're gonna charge it. The water service is, only the monthly service charge and the water consumption charge. I know
Okay.
there was conversation in the past about fire line, fire protection, late fees, reconnect fees. None of that will be charged for the water utility tax, only those things defined as the water service.
All right, this is a public hearing, now open to the council.
He just answered the question I was going to ask.
Right, okay. Hearing none, we will now open it to the public. No one in the public, and may I have a motion to approve? The hearing is closed.
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Really? We are on any other matters?
I just had one item.
Okay.
Since we discussed the resolutions earlier, the Bureau of Land Management property that runs along US 1 from the fence over to the sidewalk on the east side of US 1. We've had some discussion about trying to get responsibility for maintenance of that, because that is obviously an inward bound portion into Tequesta, and I think the Florida Department of Transportation now has responsibility for it. But it's in pretty poor condition, and given it's kind of a gateway or a vista into the village, I'd like to see us take responsibility for that. I know I talked with the gentleman who's at the Bureau of Land Management, whose name escapes me.
Peter DeWitt.
Yeah.
Peter DeWitt.
And he said that he's more than happy to have that transferred over to us.
I bet.
Well, he's already given it to FDOT. So if FDOT, and we talked about FDOT being willing to put some money into that process if we do it. But what I was going to suggest is, I think, Jeremy, you said you'd gotten a price to do irrigation on that stretch, which I think was about $4,000.
Can I just ask to clarify where this is very specifically?
It's from Beach Road. Beach Road, running on the east side of US 1.
So where the Lighthouse restaurant is?
No,
Across the
other
street,
side,
though.
across the
But, like,
street.
that corner.
That whole stretch from the fence to the sidewalk, running from Beach
All the way
Road
up.
up to basically where TD Bank is.
Okay.
And I think, am I right that the price is $4,000 for us to put an irrigation system in?
Yeah, I believe that, right. If I can maybe help with this, is that I understand we're already doing some maintenance there, but as of Tuesday, our grant writer on the park side has sent a letter to FDOT for a possible grant for just landscaping, beautification, as we've talked about. So let me get a process of where we are with that, because we were supposed to send a letter in, and I believe he did that on Tuesday.
Now,
So
would that grant include the installation of the irrigation system?
yeah, it would. So it's
Because
all
what I was going to
beautification.
suggest is, if the council were willing, I wasn't aware of this, to take some of our expense money that we may have still for this year and basically accumulate the $4,000 necessary to address the irrigation system. But if we're going after a larger grant to address the whole thing, then that's fine.
I think that would be the ideal if that's the case. So maybe if we find out that we cannot get in as part of that grant because of the timing of it, then we can talk, you can bring that back up at a later date in a month or so.
Well, I was trying to bring it up in this fiscal year.
Oh, I got you.
That we have money, I think everybody has money left to spend, and I thought that might be a valuable use of those funds, but.
That's just for irrigation?
That would be for the irrigation system, and we had talked about trying to get a grant done from.
And what would we be irrigating?
That whole stretch of road.
I know, but there's not much there already.
Well, the idea is to then get the grant from the state to
then
try
add.
and re-landscape. So we have a really nice entryway, alongside that road coming into the village.
I won't get too deep, sorry, Mr. Stone. I'm all for beautifying things. I would rather beautify something on the inside of the village that people see on an everyday basis as opposed to something people more passerby see. But I know the area on Old Dixie with Bright Line coming in at some point, they'll probably rip it all up. And I don't want to waste money on that until it could be in and be done. That's kind of where I would stand with it. Further discussion as what we would put there, I'd be interested in.
So it's not on Old Dixie?
I know, but I'm saying I'd rather see Old Dixie be done first, but knowing that thing is coming at some point, that they would probably come in and rip it all up anyways. But I'd be open to a discussion about what we could do on that end to enhance it, where you're talking about.
I'm
Mr.
hesitant
Dillon.
to put the horse in front of the cart in this aspect of, before the grant money, to put money into something that might not happen. And then what do we do? So
You know, that's why I'd rather just discuss it than jump right now.
Plus, it's not ours.
Yeah, I'm also thinking it's just the beginning of the expense, because putting irrigation in now, we're gonna have to pay for the water. The village has to pay for the water. If we put trees in, or whatever it is, we have to maintain them as well.
Well,
So it may be, like, if there is a grant, maybe that makes sense, but we have to also realize there's gonna be ongoing costs.
No, I agree, and if it wasn't, I heard what Laura's saying about within the village, but actually that stretch of land is within the village, even though it's Bureau of Land Management.
I
The
understand.
village border starts at Beach Road there, and it is a prime entryway into the village, both for residents who drive that road frequently, I do, and then for people who are coming into the community, because you were talking before about home values and the ambience of the community, and that's kind of a gateway in. So that's why I thought that it might be something that'd be a worthy undertaking.
My personal opinion, I think the Old Dixie is much worse looking than.
Well, that needs
the
to be
Lighthouse.
addressed as well, but that's Palm Beach County, and there has been discussions about Palm Beach County turning that over to the village. However, the same kind of conversation where we said, okay, if you're gonna turn it over, the road needs to be improved, and you need to provide funding for us to upgrade that to a certain level before we'd be willing to take it on, so.
Right. Yeah, I had that conversation. They were loving it. Oh, yeah, take it over.
Yeah, they've already
Not
told
the
us
way it
they'd
is now.
Right, they've already told us they'd let us take it over, so.
Yes, but and then again, it's just the upkeep. We don't have all those numbers yet.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time with that because we don't know the outside costs. We don't know what it's gonna run. So I would not want to do that before the end of this fiscal year. I understand why you're trying to do it but I don't think so.
Just a thought.
I'd like to see the post office landscaping improved.
There you
too.
go. Oh, my goodness.
That's
Oh, my
amazing.
goodness. That's the
That
federal
would definitely
government.
Can we send them a letter?
I hear you. I hear
Why
you.
don't we fix the mail first?
That's true.
I think that's outside
not-
our purview.
It is, but we have a lot of residents that have
No, but you're
mail
right. Everybody
notifications.
goes to the post office. Talk about a place they go.
Nice. I would like to make a recommendation. We have these beautiful palm trees on the Tequesta Bridge. There's about 11 or 12 of them. I'd love to see us put some Christmas lights on those this Christmas season if possible. I don't know if that's something that is possible, but I think it would be beautiful, especially at night.
Is there electric over there?
on the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that's something you
If it's doable.
can take a look. Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Anybody else have any other matters? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're a little too eager there.
And go Canes.
Yeah, right. Good meeting. Thank you all.
Good to be in person.
Nice to be back in the
Yes,
chambers.
it is, but it's, now I'm starting all over again and how we go forward. Not to mention the